I can confidently say that most of us like variety. When it comes to working with fabric and thread, making changes and adding innovations to the design comes very naturally. So when my staff and I started listing all the tweaks, both decorative and functional, that we've added to bag and toe patterns, I knew we had to share them with you. Let's start with the savvy smocking technique. The dimensional accent is classy, plus innovative. You'll be surprised to learn that this unique smocking is a shirt tail relative to a quilted yo-yo. Innovative bags and totes, that's what's coming up next on Sewing with Nancy.
Sewing with Nancy. Celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zieman is made possible by Baby Lock, a complete line of sewing, quilting, and embroidery machines and sergers. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Madeira, specializing in embroidery, quilting, and special effects threads because creativity is never black and white. Koala Studios, fine sewing furniture custom built in America. Clover, makers of sewing, knitting, quilting, and embroidery products for over 25 years. Experience the Clover difference. Amazing Designs and Class A Needles.
As you saw earlier, the pocket piece of this tote bag has the embellishment, the dimensional embellishment used with yo-yos. Now yo-yos traditionally are made with a yo-yo maker or around a canning jar lid, gathered fabric sewn together, but rather than separating the pieces, we simply made the yo-yos within a larger piece of fabric, and then it gets this smock look. Very clever, designed by Donna Fensky of the Sewing with Nancy team. And you can use a variety of patterns, something that you may have at home. It certainly doesn't have to be anything in particular. I used a template, a California bag, and it had a pocket area is within this template, and that's the size that we made the smocked area for. Now, working with the size of the smocking, you may want to consider that you have to need more fabric. Obviously, it's smocked and has the dimension to it. So we doubled the width and doubled the length of the pocket area. And I cut a piece of tissue paper that size. Because your pocket, your embellishment area will vary, we're giving you this general, I repeat, general way of determining placement for the smocking. You fold your tissue paper in half once, twice, 3 times. It's now divided into eighths, believe it or not. And then divide the horizontally divided into thirds and crease. And after unfolding all of this, you will have generally, make a little sample to make sure you're going in the right direction. You'll be able to place the smocked areas on here, and we're going to form a W. I'm going to start in the middle at the top horizontal row and place a dot, and then go down 1 layer and up 1 layer. Again, from the center, we'd go down 1 and up 1, and that would give the placements for the smocking, take up the extra width. So give that a try. Now you can use a traditional circle smocking technique. And if you do that, this is what with a circle or a circle maker, you'll get a smocking look such as this. And a heart-shaped, on the purple we have, you can see it goes down in size considerably, and I'm going to work with a floral shape. So those 5 markings have been marked on the fabric, and I have separated the yo-yo making tool. And I'm going to center my dot. I have 5 dots, and this is a little difficult to see, so I'm just assuming that here's my dot. I'm going to place it over the center of the tool. And then the top plate, the top section fits within the plate, and it snaps down. You wrap the fabric. It didn't snap down. Let me do it one more time. Get it centered and put it in here. And you have to snap it all the way around. You wrap the fabric around the edges, and as you look at the plate side, you will see some indentations, some half moon, some crescent-shaped indentations. You would like the needle, the thread of the needle to go in those indentations, and you just stitch following around. Notice I have the fabric bent, and you just stitch going all the way around following it. Not very difficult, kind of a no-brainer situation, and you just stitch and stitch, and it'll take 3 minutes or so to stitch around this. After you've stitched all the way around, you snap apart, the pieces release. Now granted, I haven't stitched the whole thing, but I have on this next sample. And I've started to draw the extra basting stitches, and as I baste it up, draw up the basting stitches into a tight little rosegay, you can see that I have a beautiful little smock section. Now if I would smock all 5 areas that I have marked, well, this is what we'd have. This is the smocking. Now it doesn't fit the pattern piece just yet. So with a little adjustments, kind of fold the fabric, folding out the extra bulk of the fabric, and at the sides I would take time to pin out the excess and then mark the pocket placement around this area. And as you can see, I'd need to fold and stitch or baste around the edges so that I would get the pleating at the sides. Cut out your new dimensional pattern piece and then just sew it into the pocket as you normally would. What a beautiful adjustment, a real innovation for smocking. Zipper upper, that's a term I would say to my little boys as they put on their winter coats, making sure the zipper was closed all the way. So when adding a secure zipper closure to an open top tote, zipper upper closure seemed an ideal term. If you have a tote without a closure, here's an ideal way of stitching in security. Whether you have a purchased tote or one you made yourself, you can use the same fabric or coordinating fabric to add this insert that has a longer zipper so that you can easily keep the contents of your tote secure. The width of the fabric at the top should equal about the same width as the base of the tote so that you have a nice spacious tote to carry all of your belongings. So when you're going to determine the size of the fabric to cut, you're going to measure your tote across the opening, take off 2 inches, and then make the width of the base for the zipper the same width as the bottom of the bag. In my instance, it was 4 inches. So I have 2 pieces, 2 inches shorter than the opening and the width of the base. Fold each fabric in half and sew the long seam, leave an opening in the middle. Maybe you don't have to leave it this large, but we left it this way so you can see it. And then sew a wrap corner at the corners. And now you're going to turn this inside out using your favorite technique of turning it inside out. There are so many ways that you can do this. I'll just use the turner. And you invert through this opening. Bring the fabric through. And here we go. This fabric has a little extra texture to it, so it's not cooperating as fast as I'd like it to. Here we go. There we are. Some days are like that. And after you turn one side out, right side out, and you work those corners out over, you go through the other side, do the same technique, and then press so that both of your fabric pieces are nice and neat. You don't even have to sew that opening closed. Just press it closed, and we're going to place it toward the zipper. Here's the zipper, cut longer than you need, about 4 inches longer than you need, and sandwich the pieces on either side of the zipper and top stitch. And what you may want to do is finish the edges. We like to wrap some fabric around the edges, double the width of the zipper, and sew across the top. And when you do that, you simply have to then press and fold so that you have a nice little tab. I mean, it's fairly simple and it's a neat closure. Here's my finished closure, and I have marked the center point, folded in half, mark the center point with a pin. Now my tote is open, and you need to mark that same center point on both sides of the finished tote. And here I'll just show you one area. And you place the closure inside, matching your pins. And then pin the zipper closure along the interior, equidistant from the top, all the way around, or I should say along each side. From the top, you're going to do the stitching, either along the stitching or create a top stitching. And here you can see that I'm restitching along that initial line. Make certain that you secure the threads, backstitch, at the corners because it's going to get some wear and tear. But with just a little time, it's not going to take a lot of effort at all, you can see that you can easily add the closure. The accent zipper, different colors can be a fun element. The zipper can be tucked inside or the tail's outside. It's a zipper upper technique. I don't need to extol the virtues of a backpack. That's a given. Preschoolers to adults wear big or small backpacks. If you don't have a backpack pattern, use a bag pattern or template. With innovative strap and snap additions, a traditional bag shape will easily convert into a backpack. Here is the style of bag pattern that I use to create the backpacks. Very simple. We've used this throughout the series. You can use any pattern that's kind of mid-size, has a square base. I used a California bag template, and the change is quite remarkable. It has quite a different look with long straps in the back that easily fit over the shoulders, an easy to grasp handle, and then the all-important shaping. The cinching at the sides is accomplished by snaps. And here's how this all goes together. If you saw the first program of this two-part series, you know the benefits of working flats, adding as many details to the flat pattern pieces as possible. I've added the stiff interfacing, the craft interfacing, and stitched along the edges, and I've started to mark the snaps or put the snaps into place for those cinching areas so that I have the cinch sides so they form like a backpack. I measured in 2 inches and down 2 inches. And at each corner of the front, I'd put the innie snap, and then on the back, the outie snap. So just put them in each corner. The back will have the greatest number of changes. I measured down that same 2 inches from the back and found the center point. This is where the straps are going to be attached. Now straps. We've worked earlier in this program, I should say in this series, how to make straps. And I'd like you to follow those instructions or use your favorite techniques of making a narrow 3/4 of an inch wide strap. You're going to cut 2 of these that are 36 inches long. So 2 that are 36 inches long. And after cutting those, you're going to fold under the ends of each, just one end of each, and place that in the center, at that center mark of 2 inches down and at the center, so that you have a finished edge. 1, 2. There are kind of thicknesses here, so do pin through the thicknesses, take a little time. So then after you've done this, then you're going to bring the strap ends, invert them, bring them down. Here, let me show you so you can see the contrasting thread to the base, and measure in 1 3/4 inches or 2 inches. It kind of depends upon what you'd like, how close you'd like them to be, and pin. And now you can base these along, these being the straps, along the lower edge. So working flat makes it so much easier. You can see how it's starting to take shape. For that little handle, you'll need a 10-inch strap. And the 10-inch strap has been turned under on each end. And a lot of it is just placing, and I'd straighten this up a little bit if I were doing this at home, but stitch, pin first, and then stitch little squares to hold down the tabs. And let me show you what I mean. As I show you on the finished bag, you can see that those have been securely stitched just by stitching squares along the edges of the strap. And the lower edge has been caught in the seam. The shaping has been placed with the snaps, and then that tab piece. Now if we look at the original pattern piece, it was much larger. It was too wide for the shaping. So all I did was to shape it down. Rather than using the width, the wider width, I used the narrower width. You can change your pattern however you'd like. And I made it just narrower so it fit the opening. And when I'd use the backpack, it opens up for convenience and closes down for security. What's the difference between a handbag and a tote? Namely, space. Our last innovative technique transforms a handbag pattern or template into a tote with an addition of a draw cord top. Much like adding a second story to a house, this carryall has now doubled in size. Again, use any pattern you'd like that has rectangular shapes. This was the original design, working with a pattern called the City Bag, and it's a template. Nice size, but it really changes when you add a draw cord top. We've also changed the placement of the straps. That's purely a cosmetic effect that you can find that information in the book that accompanies the program, but right now we're going to specialize, take some time on this top so that you can add it to a pattern that you may have. I have the front and the back pattern pieces cut out, have the interfacing added, but there's a change for the interfacing. You'll see that on the flip side, the wrong side, I made the interfacing, the craft stiff interfacing, a half of an inch shorter than the full length of the bag, because we're going to press under later on the top edge so that it's nice and crisp. At this point, you can add the straps however you'd like to add them, at the top, or I added them in the body of the bag. Again, a cosmetic attempt to make a change, and then I also added a pocket in this area so you could straddle the straps on either side of the pocket using the same strap marking so that you have the straps in the correct spot no matter where they went. So that is up to you if you want to make that change, but to add that draw cord top, here's the next step. You need one measurement, one basic measurement, and that is to measure across the top of the bag. So you're going to measure across the top the width, and you're going to use that measurement 2 times because the draw cord top is going to be the same width as the top of the bag. In this instance, it's 16 inches. And then the length of the bag, you use that same measurement plus 2 inches. So it's 16 plus 2, so it's 18 inches. So 2 pieces, the width, and then the length is that width measurement plus 2 inches. To get the center of the bag, I have 2 pieces that are cut this size. You fold it in half, crease mark it, and then measure an opening for the draw cord so that the cords have a place to go. And on the side, from the fold, I've measured down 1/2 of an inch and 1.5 inches, 1/2 of an inch and 1.5 inches. And on the opposite side, the same 2 measurements. You meet your fabric pieces together and sew the side seams, but stopping and then restarting at the mark. So you leave an opening where the draw cord will later go through. And you might guess we have a sample that has that opening right below, 1/2 of an inch below the fold, and then you tuck along that pre-creased area. You press in a memory and you meet the cut edges, and it's starting to look like the extension. And fabric always takes a little time to fold. Then after doing this folding, you're going to stitch 1/2 of an inch from the top and 1.5 inches from the top to create a casing. And that's what's happened on this piece. We stitched along the top, and you can see that's where the draw cord is going to go on both sides. We have that opening. You're going to have a lining piece. Make the lining piece as normal. Here we have it stitched, and then you're going to meet right sides together, stitching the draw cord top to the lining and just sew along a circle. And look at what we have. It's getting to look much like a bag. Now, the top of the bag itself needs a little pressing. Working with some tape, some fusible web, I've added the web across the top, just a fusible web, and I'd fold it under and press so that that top edge was nice and crisp. You'd press along all around the edges. Next, with wrong sides together, you tuck the lining inside, matching the seam allowances, which I'm not doing right now, but you fold and match. And all that's left is to stitch around the top. We've stitched in this instance, stitching along the top of the bag And then you can add a draw cord and you have a convertible top. How often do you complete a sewing project? Once or twice a year? Perhaps once a month? How about every week? My Nancy's Corner guest does just that, sews a dress every week and blogs about her ventures while providing a community to share the results. Mina Trott of SewWeekly.com joins us from San Francisco via Skype. Welcome to Sewing with Nancy, Mina.
Thank you, Nancy. It's really fun to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure as well because I've been following some of your dress creations and it's interesting how you started.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers.
So 2 years ago, I kind of was frustrated with my wardrobe, my store-bought wardrobe, because it just didn't feel like me, and I was buying things cheaply at, you know, the general stores. And I felt like I wanted to put some effort into what I wore. And so I decided, I didn't really sew before that. And I decided I was just going to make my clothes for a year, get rid of my store-bought stuff, and just see if I can even do it.
Well, do it you have.
Yeah.
And so you first did a 12-week time period, I remember, a test period to make sure you could do it before you put it on the blog, correct?
Yeah. So in the year 2009, the last month, starting around September, I wanted to see if I could keep up that pace because I didn't want to start a blog and then just fail miserably. So I was able to do it, and then I decided to make it public.
And you have themes each week. I think that's what's so enjoyable. And you sent me some photos of some of your favorite themes, and let's talk about the rejuvenation dress.
Oh, yeah, I had actually been burned out for probably a couple weeks, and I was sewing and I was still doing it. I wasn't really feeling it. And then I decided I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, which is a big 50s dress. And I really loved doing it. And it was just, it made me realize why I love sewing is because I love the outcome. And so not being afraid of doing something that, you know, it's not the most practical thing to wear every day, but I just loved it. And so I felt like I got someone said your Sojo back, like Mojo. So I like that.
Because you used a 1957 pattern and some thrift store fabric. And Nina writes that how long it takes to create, about 5 hours, and how much she spent on it. You're frugal, but it's fun and frugal. But this next dress took a little bit longer, the slow and steady.
And that dress happens to be probably the most popular dress I ever posted on the Sew Weekly. People went crazy for it, and it wasn't as hard as it looks. I had a whole roll of lace that I got 400 yards for like $8 or $6. And I dyed it because the challenge that week was dyeing fabric. And so I dyed it all these different shades of hot pink. And then by the time I constructed it, it came together. So I was incredibly happy. And that was another vintage pattern from, I believe, probably around 63. I can't remember completely, but.
Yeah, it says 1965 in my little notes, and yeah, it's a fun look, and you wear it well. And then the dress that probably I'd have to categorize all the dresses that I wear. The hips don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah, that dress I wasn't excited about the fabric, but I had gotten it when I was in St. Paul, and when I actually met you for the first time, I went thrifting, and I bought it for, you know, less than $10 probably, I think, and I just put it together, and I actually loved it. It just, the fabric I don't really find that I love is the one that usually turns out the best because I think I have low expectations. Oh,
well, you've risen above those expectations, and you build a community in your website. And people contribute and note, and what's some of the interesting things that you have learned from your community?
I think that people love to have motivation and inspiration, that I set these challenges because I thought it would help direct the year. But people love to know, they kind of are overwhelmed when they think, what am I going to sew this week? And to be able to say, you're going to have to sew something in plaid or sew something that is from the 50s, it really helps people. And they love that kind of encouragement. And the community has been so wonderful to each other. And that's been completely worth doing this for the year.
Well, watching a new theme each time, I know what it's like because I have to do a new topic for Sewing with Nancy. And this has been fun interviewing you, Mina. Thank you for being our guest. And I know,
thank you for having me.
I know many of our viewers will stop by and see what you're making next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And for our audience, thank you for being with us for the second program of Innovative Bags and Totes. Remember that you can go to nancyzieman.com and watch all things Sewing with Nancy. 52 of our most recent programs. You can sign up to be on my blog, and also you can go to Nancy's Corner under the 2600 series, where you can click on Mina Trott and Sew Weekly and find out more information. So as I always say with every Sewing with Nancy program, thanks for joining me. Bye for now.
Nancy has written a fully illustrated book entitled Innovative Bags and Totes that includes all the information from this two-part series. It's $14.99 plus shipping and handling. To order the book, call 800-336-8373 or visit our website at sewingwithnancy.com/2601. Order item number BK2601. Innovative Bags and Totes, credit card orders only. To pay by check or money order, call the number on the screen for details. Visit Nancy's website at nancyzieman.com to see additional episodes, Nancy's blog, and more. Sewing with Nancy, celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zieman, has been brought to you by Baby Lock, Madeira Threads, Koala Studios, Clover, Amazing Designs and Class A Needles. Closed captioning funding provided by Oliso. Sewing with Nancy is a co-production of Nancy Zieman Productions and Wisconsin Public Television.